Welcome to 1500ESPN.com. Phil Mackey and Derek Wetmore. Phil making his much-anticipated video return.
This is the first time you and I have done a video together.
That's true.
Well, at least for the website.
And I've been here for years and years and years, so this is surprising. Uncomfortable start aside, we're here to talk about the Vikings head coaching
uncomfortable sweater
search.
game aside, too.
I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin and my own sweater. We're here to talk about the Vikings coaching search, some of the updates. You know, you're hearing the names swirling around, some of the finalists. Phil, the reason I brought you in is I want to talk about resumes versus coaching potential. And you can look at a guy's resume, what he's done as a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, or quarterback's coach. Mm-hmm. But what other factors play into it? That certainly can't be all there is to consider.
You know, it's funny, because you and I have had that conversation off the air, just in passing, that we're sitting here, how do we analyze on the radio, online, Mike Zimmer versus Greg Roman versus other coordinators and
Dan Quinn?
Yeah, Dan Quinn. You know,
Todd Bowles.
We know Darrell Bevel, at least, because he was here as a coordinator, and we know his personality. But if you look historically, and I just started doing this for fun this morning on Pro Football Reference, you can find all the histories of coordinators and whatnot. I found the single greatest resume of any former aspiring head coach in the history of the NFL. A guy whose resume screamed, this guy needs to be hired, and eventually became a head coach and completely flopped. Right. Before I reveal the name, this man spent more than a decade as the special teams coordinator for a legendary head coach and won multiple rings as his tenure as a special teams coordinator. He then went in the mid-1990s to a team in the AFC that went to a Super Bowl, lost that Super Bowl under the same legendary coach. You can see where I'm going here. And then went to another legendary head coach and became a defensive coordinator for 3 Super Bowl championship teams. And one of those teams actually knocked off, in a huge upset, one of the greatest offenses in the history of the NFL.
You going to get to the point, Mackie?
Romeo Crennel's resume is a great example of, hey, wow, this guy... Before you get this guy in a room, he looks like he would be the next Bill Belichick, the next Bill Parcells. And as it turns out, Romeo Crennel is the classic example of great X's and O's coordinator, great schemer, great in his role, but doesn't translate to head coach material. And that's why so much of it is, here's a guy's resume. Here are 6 different resumes. Now we throw those resumes out the window, and you have to be able to pick up on the smell test.
Exactly.
Ultimately, we don't know, since Christian Ponder was a whiff and Rick Spielman drafted Christian Ponder, is Rick Spielman able to sniff out the best guy in that room once the resumes are gone? We don't know.
Right, and that's the part that makes it so difficult from a media perspective. This is just my opinion, that it's impossible for us to know. People ask me on Twitter or in our Vikings chat today, hey, if it is Mike Zimmer as the next coach, is he going to be a good guy? Well, truthfully, I don't know.
Right.
Because I'm not in the room to gauge how good his leadership is, or to gauge any of these number of other factors, his clock management, all of these things that we'll have no idea until he's put in that position as a head coach. That's frankly something we can't answer off his resume.
And the fact that Mike Zimmer comes from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, that's a plus, obviously. Okay, he had a chance to learn from someone great, and he's put up great resume numbers as a defensive coordinator with the Bengals. So resume-wise, Mike Zimmer stacks up. But you can't, even if Bill Parcells vouches for Mike Zimmer. Well, if it was anyone under the Bill Parcells coaching tree, and you went to Bill Parcells and said, hey, Johnny over here has a chance to be the head coach, is Bill Parcells really going to kick back and say, oh man, that guy was a disaster when he worked for me?
Exactly.
It's just, it's so hard unless you're in the room to actually know. So we can break it down from every angle. If the question is Greg Roman or Mike Zimmer or Dan Quinn, beyond the resume, because we're not in the room, it's okay for us to all say, we don't know until we see this guy in person.
Certainly remains to be seen, and I think that's fair. Phil, thanks for joining. Thanks you for coming to 1500ESPN.com, checking out our videos. We'll have another one up here shortly as we all monitor this Vikings head coaching search.